Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this fantastic AEW Dynamite episode for February 19th, 2020. This was a phenomenal episode. If you did not watch it, possibly because you watched NXT over AEW, why you did that, I have no idea. Not saying that NXT sucks, but AEW produced a 5-star fucking show. This was almost flawless fucking show. There was nothing on this card that really made me feel that this was a bad show. Number one, it felt like a pay-per-view type of show, which is fucking crazy. Awesome Tag Team World Championship matchup that occurred between Kenny Omega and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Lucha Brothers of Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. That was a superb match. The Steel Cage match for the first time ever in AEW's history with Cody Rhodes versus Warlow was superb, especially the ending, which I'll get into when I get to the main event. Jeff Cobb's in-ring presence was impressive as well against Jon Moxley. Unfortunately, he had to eat a loss in the process, but they made Jeff Cobb look very good, like he was in Ring of Honor before they fucked that all up and had him lose to freaking Matt Taven for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship back last year in the Best in the World. So, let's get straight to the point, guys. The first matchup right out of the box was the Battle Royale tag team matchup to determine the number one contenders that would face Kenny Omega and Hangman Page for the pay-per-view event coming up on February 29th. And the Young Bucks actually were the ones to win this match. And the interesting part about it is that they didn't have, if one tag team member got eliminated, the whole entire tag team got eliminated altogether. I like the fact that they did this right. And if one tag team member was eliminated, then the tag team is still in the tag team match itself until the other tag team member is eliminated as well. That was done in this actual Battle Royale, which they did a fantastic job on, and Matt Jackson looked great in the end. He managed to overcome the Inner Circle. He managed to overcome the Pride and Powerful between Santana and Ortiz, and he pulled out a miracle win for the Young Bucks to get an opportunity again for the tag team titles. I gotta say, it was a hell of a way to start off the show, but this show just kept getting better and better. I mean, getting better and better. I loved it. There was one match that I could have given 2 shits less, and that's, of course, the women's division with Chris Statlander versus Shanna, and Chris Statlander actually picks up the victory here. This match didn't last too long, and it wasn't that great of a match to begin with anyway. Quite frankly, I really didn't care for this match at all. I was paying more attention to my cell phone and seeing what was online. So, nothing to talk here. That was the one thing about this show that sucked. Nyla Rose, though, her little skit with Tony Schiavone, and she basically was interviewed by Tony Schiavone. She got a heel-like crowd reaction. She said she's the queen bee in this hive and no one can stack up to her. She's only going to be the one-time champ because she's never going to lose the belt. Unfortunately, Nyla Rose, I don't believe you're going to last as champion for a super long time. I do picture maybe getting a 6-month title reign, possibly, because she is a big chick, but I don't see her lasting a long time to begin with. Hopefully never getting a title reign after that. Chris Statlander, though, comes out long afterwards and kind of stands in front of Nyla Rose, getting ready to point on Nyla Rose's nose, but unfortunately, doesn't do that. She points at Rose's championship instead. After that, we notice another woman comes out, and it's Swole, who's a black chick, has dreadlock hair and everything, and they are actually going ahead and trying to challenge for the championship, but Swole is unranked, which is very unusual. And I do have to ask this, why is she, if she's unranked, why is she even challenging for a world championship match? That made no sense either. I didn't even really think about that while talking about this until I read this article while I'm talking to you guys. And quite frankly, they are saying that she was unranked. Well, here's the thing. The women's division ain't that fucking great anyway, so who gives a flying fuck about making logic at this point? Let's just find somebody that's noteworthy enough that I can actually compete in the ring. Let's start off there. Then we can worry about rankings. Alright? So we get a video package of Jeff Cobb from the recap of his introduction from last week, and the Cobb versus Moxley match came up next. Actually, Taz joined the commentary team this time around for this specific match. And Jon Moxley ends up defeating Jeff Cobb, as I mentioned earlier. In a very lucky finish, nonetheless. He was a hard person to put away, Jeff Cobb. Of course, Jeff Cobb being the size that he is and the muscular man that he is definitely a guy that you can believe is going to be hard to put away. And the best way to do it is pure luck, which is what happened for Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley was put through the ringer. They had him taped up around the ribs, which I actually did enjoy seeing. Putting on some dramatical effects, showing he has some post damage to his body from the attack that he endured last week. So I enjoyed the fact that they brought some old school mentality to this matchup. There was some interferences, distractions and whatnot by the Inner Circle, being by ringside in the fan area, where they were pretty much acting as the fans because they had a ticket to show up there in ringside seats. But overall, this match in action actually was very good. Jeff Cobb got away looking very well, even though he lost in defeat. He was defeated. And I really didn't have a major issue with this matchup. This matchup did what it needed to do. Jeff Cobb looked like a strong ox motherfucker who kicked some ass. And he ended up doing what he had to do. Put some more punish on Jon Moxley, weakening him down. Eventually, he did get the victory, of course. And after the bell, Jericho, Hager, Guevara, and Cobb started stomping on Moxley again, but Dustin Rhodes entered to make the save, but fell victim to the numbers game. The lights went out. Darby Allin shows up and appeared on the stage to a huge reaction, which I thought was fucking fantastic. A guy like Darby Allin, who's new and fresh to the wrestling world as mainstream media, is unbelievable that he was getting that kind of crowd reaction by the fans. And I thought that was fantastic for this guy. He's totally new, total new fresh face to the wrestling world, and he is getting the support of the fans 100%. I think that is fantastic, and this matchup with him and Sammy Guevara at the pay-per-view at Revolution may actually be a very interesting matchup. I'm not quite sure on who they're going to go with to win, but I would imagine Darby Allin's going to win. Now, again, going back to Sammy Guevara, I don't know if I mentioned this before. I do know I mentioned this on previous episodes on the reviews I've done for this show, that Sammy Guevara is on a extremely bad losing streak. He is the weak link of Inner Circle. This guy needs a win as well. Darby Allin, they need to keep him with the momentum. So at the end of the day, who do you go with? I'm going with Darby Allin to beat Sammy Guevara in that match. I will give you guys a actual preview and predictions video, which I don't do very often anymore. But for this, I am definitely stoked about this. I am buying the pay-per-view. I'm going to see it live and then review it to you guys right after it goes off the air. But quite frankly, this is a stacked card. This has a lot of great potential to be one of the best pay-per-views AEW has done so far in its entirety, in its existence. And I think that they're going to pull off a really good show that's going to be very successful. So, after that, we had the AEW World Tag Team title match with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. And they retained their tag team titles in a fucking beautiful... If they didn't have the steel cage match, this would have been your main event. This was a beautiful fucking main event. Well, not main event. World Tag Team Championship match. And I will say this. I went on record saying this to my friend Matthew in text. I will say this here. I think that this match topped NXT's World Tag Team Championship match with Undisputed Era and Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle matchup at the NXT TakeOver Portland. I'm sorry to say that. It was a good match, though, at TakeOver Portland for the tag team titles. I will not deny that. But these guys, these four men just beat the holy hell out of each other. Not saying that the Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne versus the Undisputed Era didn't do the same thing. But my God, the action was just non-stop and brutal. I mean, my friend Matt did mention that's true in one aspect. They did get there was a better result, meaning it had more meaning to it. It had a stronger value to it. This was just more of a very expected thing to happen. It wasn't at pay-per-view at all. So, and this is just building towards a storyline leading up to Hangman Page and Kenny Omega to eventually turn on each other through Hangman Page turning heel. Now, this, granted, could lead to something different. I actually mentioned this. Could you imagine this? Could you imagine Hangman Page and Kenny Omega retain the tag team titles against the Young Bucks to extend the storyline even further to another type of situation where the Young Bucks start to dislike or lose respect for Kenny Omega for standing up for Hangman Page and actually taking his side more often than not than theirs. I think that would be a nice little touch. So basically him being blinded by the idea that yes, Hangman Page may be part of their elite group and that they're good friends, but at the same time, he's not realizing that there's something definitely wrong with Hangman Page. Because quite frankly, you can tell he's drinking a lot. After the match was over, he started drinking and taking beers from the crowd, whatever he could get his hands on. And he really wasn't showing any kind of decent respect, I think, from his friends of the Young Bucks, because they came in and were going to shake his hand, and he just kind of walked away and went to go to the crowd to start getting beers, and that was all he worried about. So that really kind of points out something, that there could be a possible chance that we might actually see a little bit of a stopping gap before Hangman Page and Kenny Omega become enemies. And we see that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega start to disagree on things about Hangman Page, and they start to not be friends anymore for a while until Kenny Omega realizes what he has done was a mistake, that he should have recognized Hangman Page's problem and what he was doing. That is something they could go with. But they're probably going to go with the more simplistic way of going here. They may have Hangman Page and Kenny Omega lose the tag team titles to the Young Bucks and then move forward with this storyline where Hangman Page and Kenny Omega become rivals and compete one-on-one, which I would be perfectly fine with that too. But just to make it even more intriguing, maybe even throw a little bit of a wrench in here and have the Young Bucks be against Kenny Omega, supporting and being on the side of Hangman Page for his so-called attitude. I think that is something that could be a nice little twist on things before they have Hangman Page and Kenny Omega become enemies. They did advertise Pac and Kenny Omega to be going at it one-on-one in a 30-minute Iron Man match, which should be good. The Best Friends go against the Butcher and the Blade. Was also announced for next week's show, which I don't particularly care so much for. That's not really something I care about very much. They did have a video package recapping the entire history leading up to this steel cage match with Cody versus MJF, or Cody versus Wardlow, and how this whole entire feud came about and what's leading up to the pay-per-view for them to go at it. So that was a nice little touch there. It made it feel more like a pay-per-view main event match. And of course, Cody won this match against Wardlow in the steel cage match, and my God, folks, that steel cage for AEW looks fantastic. I absolutely love it. It looks very much similar to the original old school OG, original gangsta, Hell in a Cell, from back in the day in the 1990s and the early 2000s, without a roof. That's pretty much what this cell looks like to me, or this steel cage. Now, I have to say one thing. These two guys did well. Warlow was doing his thing, what he needed to do. And Cody, he did a good job as well. Acting out the blood loss and just being in severe pain and enduring a lot of damage from Wardlow. He did a fantastic job selling this stuff. Just to go in some of the action that occurred from what this article is showing. Basically, the rules of this match is there's pinfall or submission only. There is no escaping the cage. So, no matter what happens, you cannot escape out the door to get a cheap victory. You have to pin or submit your opponent. Love that ruling. Absolutely love it. And I absolutely loved that that part of the rules in this matchup. Definitely a lot different than most matchups. That was just my roommate, by the way, asking me if I was doing a review, so he didn't bother me, which, of course, kind of did. But anyway, yeah, so Cody goes on to win this matchup, of course, and I thought it was great that the rules were just pinfall or submission. There are so many different steel cage matches we've seen in WWE. Also, we've seen it in TNA, even, where they get the cheap victory through walking through the cage. I thought that was a great thing that they threw in here. So let's just get straight into the action and just go over some of the information I have written here. Well, not me per se written, but the person who wrote this article telling what occurred in the matchup. So, starting things off, Cody hit a high kick, Wardlow did a no-sell, and Wardlow hit a lariat, then lawn darted Cody into the cage. Cody kind of bladed along the hairline. Wardlow hit some clubbing forearms during the final ad break. After the commercials, Cody made a comeback, hit a Cody cutter, and then 10 punches in the corner. Wardlow hit a low blow, then something resembling an F5. Wardlow tossed Cody into the cage door, which swung open, which swung open, And Arn Anderson approached the cage door, and MJF did the same. And he tried to goad Arn Anderson into slamming the cage on Cody, just as he did to Dusty years ago. Arn hit MJF instead with the cage door. Cody hit a power slam, and MJF hit a senton for a near fall. Cody hit a power slam. MJF hit a senton for a near fall. I think they were... and MJF tossed Wardlow the Dynamite ring. Actually, this person wrote this incorrectly. Wardlow hit a senton for a near fall. So MJF tossed Wardlow the Dynamite diamond ring. Cody hit a low blow and hit Wardlow with the ring instead. On the outside, MJF started to climb the truss supporting the cage, and Brandy Rhodes nailed him with the chair, and Arn Anderson then threw him over the barricade. Inside, Cody hit a crossroads for a near fall and then climbed to the top of the cage, hitting a moonsault to perfection. I thought the guy was going to kill himself. If he made one false move, he would have been fucking screwed. He would have injured himself badly. And he manages to hit this move beautifully like he did in WWE back in 2013. I think it was against the Shield. I think it was them in a steel cage match. Oh, no, wait. No, it was the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. He actually hit a fucking moonsault with him and his brother tag teaming against the Outlaws, the New Age Outlaws, and he managed to perform that move in that match, and it did not look as good as this. It was a superb move. He actually hits that move and then gets the cover for the 1-2-3. MJF retreats the aisle, and Cody climbed to the top of the cage, taunting MJF, and then waved to the crowd, and that's how the show goes off the air. Folks, this match and the show, there's nothing you can say about the show that was bad except for the women's match. And that's, of course, because the women's division in AEW is complete and utter shit. There's nothing to talk about here. They're garbage. But anyway, guys, that's all I really have to say on this episode. Oh, by the way, I forgot to throw out here, again, I saw another fan wearing a Scooby-Doo costume, which last week there was one wearing one. I don't know if this was the same person, but if it was, God help you. What the fuck is wrong with you, and why do they even let you in the building with wearing a Scooby-Doo costume on in the front row? You fucking moron. Anyway, had to throw that one out there. Leave a comment down below. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.